Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining CVent today to learn more about how to approach room block management for your upcoming events. So before we get started, I want to remind you that this is a live webinar, so use the chat and Q&A areas on the right side of the attendee hub where you're viewing the webinar right now. We'll be saving time at the end to answer questions live, so if you have a question, please add it to the Q&A area. Other viewers can see that question and they can upvote their favorites to get answered. We also have a few documents that are available for download, so make sure to access those if you're interested in learning more on this topic. And please, after the session is over or during the session, please submit feedback. The session will be available on demand, so if you can't watch it all, you can always come back and log back in and watch it in the future. And with that, I'm going to get started on our topic. But first, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Kelly Kopek. I'm a product marketer here at CVent, and I work on our solutions that help connect event organizers with hotels and venues, like our room block management technology, Passkey, which allows planners and hotels to work more efficiently together. I want to start today by sharing recent findings from a planner pulse survey that we run with Northstar several times throughout the year. Our December data was very interesting and will lend well to our discussion on room blocks today. December's survey in particular drew over 400 planner responses. You can see the responses represented planners in the association and nonprofit, corporate, and third-party spaces, with the majority of events in the 101 to 500 attendee range. And we asked when their next live event was. Nearly 1/3 of all of the planners who responded produced an event in Q4 of last year. 43% will have an event this quarter that we're currently in, Q1 of 2023. When asked to tell us about 2023 in particular, 2/3 of the respondents expect to produce more meetings this year versus last year. We've asked this question in the past as well through the September survey, and that's represented by the darker green area. And we can see an increase in confidence for 2023 in that yes category with the lighter green when we asked again this survey round in December. So super amount of confidence when it comes to more events for this year. So we know that confidence for event frequency is high. However, planners aren't as confident on attendance levels for this year. 31% of the respondents expected 101% or more of their 2022 attendance. But there's the rest of the group which expected 100% or less of the in-person attendance this year versus last year. And what are those top concerns for planners? Number one concern, no surprise here, are costs, and followed by budgets, which was a close second for the respondents. But interestingly enough, although costs and budgets are concerning, the majority of the planners that we polled are planning to adjust their budgets to match or exceed the expected costs that they are seeing in the market. And I wanted to read this quote from one of the respondents of the surveys to reiterate that fact. They said, "We are mindful of the current state of pricing for events across the industry and are adjusting our costs accordingly, but we're updating our program to ensure that we are not exceeding our 2022 budget by an enormous amount. So it requires me to be creative with our F&B and offsite events while maintaining the integrity of the event." I think this is just a great example of what planners are currently up against. There's a lot of market conditions, but they're learning how to adjust their program and make it work for them within budget. And then finally, I wanted to wrap up just going over the high-level key takeaways from some of this data. 43% of planners will produce their next event this quarter. More planners expect to produce more meetings this year versus last year. And the only drawback to this may be that attendance levels will continue to lag. This may not be the case for everyone, but for some of us. Budgets are expected to at least match cost increases. And although budgets are flexing, cost remains the top concern. So it's clear that planners are having to do more with less and find efficiencies through technology or new processes wherever they can to be able to host events at a high frequency within budget. So I think that's a really great segue into our conversation on room block management. And I want to introduce Manpreet Kaur, who is the Director of Meetings and Events here at Cvent. And she's joining us today so we can chat about what her observations and strategies have been when contracting and filling room blocks for recent events. So thanks again for joining us, Manpreet. I'm really happy that you're here and can join us. I wanted to start with you giving us a little bit of background of yourself and your role here at Cvent.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. I'm Manpreet Kaur, Director of Meetings and Events at Cvent. I've been in the event planning industry for almost about 14 years now, and my major focus is on the creation of unique event experiences and establishing quantifiable and integrated metrics to drive ROI out of the total events program. And yeah, I'm very excited to be here to share some insight around in person events and specifically the room block management.
It's great. Thank you, Manpreet, again. And I wanted to get right into it and talk about in-person events for this year. We saw some of the data I shared earlier, and that cost really is the major concern for in-person events and on top of every event organizer's minds for this year. So I wanted to ask you, what do you anticipate for your 2023 in-person event program from the cost perspective?
Absolutely. Well, meeting and event planners should definitely expect further price increases across the board. As per the data that you showed earlier, and also the recent forecast report by GBT and CWT, the average cost per attendee in 2020 was about or around 25% higher than 2019, and this is likely to rise further 7% in 2023. It said that an influx of events fueled up by pent-up demand coupled with shorter lead time are driving up prices across venue hire, accommodation, F&B, and production. But the good news is that there are strategies that can help you get the most bang for your buck. For example, setting longer lead time to balance cost and risk. Now, booking early provides the best chance of securing a top-notch or a top choice destination venue at the best rate possible. Now, we need to understand that there's a high demand coming to hotels, especially in top tier cities. So, planners need to set longer lead time to secure the best deal than in years past. The second strategy could be, by treating your event needs as a piece of the larger puzzle. So when it comes to logistics, flexibility remains fundamental. Could you consider a shorter window or using different spaces, during different season? Could you have a simpler set? Can you set up your stage in 3 hours instead of 24 hours? Are some questions that one needs to answer that can help save cost overall. Now, for further cost saving, communicate with suppliers to understand opportunities to reducing overhead costs, right? Can you coordinate your supply needs to match those of closely timed events? And how larger supply chain disruption influence pricing and lead times? So once you understand these pain points, you can definitely try to pivot, with replacement options. So yeah, this is a couple of strategies that I would implement, for at least CVent programs, in order to save cost overall.
You said a lot of great strategies in there. And one thing I wanted to call out is data that we've seen specifically across our venue sourcing technology, the Cvent Supplier Network. We've seen that planners have had to have longer lead times in order to find the space that is adequate for them. And that may mean when narrowing down location of the event and maybe the type of venue that you're looking for, reaching out to more hotels than before, because we know that hotels are super busy right now. Space is filling up. We saw that 2023 demand is at an all-time high, back to 2019 levels or more. So really, it's important to focus on, what is important to you when reaching out to venues, having that long lead time, and getting the venue that fits with your event program, and that may mean reaching out to more. So we've seen that through the Event Supplier Network, planners having to reach out to more venues with that longer lead time. So I think it's very interesting, some of the things that you have to think about now that maybe you wouldn't have had to before. And I wanted to talk about, some of the things that you saw from last year's in-person event program, and now that that's concluded and you know what event attendance looked like last year, what do you think in-person attendance will look like this year?
Very interesting question. Well, in person attendance is most likely to increase this year. We need to understand that 2020 was the year of recovery. Several industry reports have shown that all the challenges still exist. There is a reason to be optimistic as we look ahead to this new year. I think there was a study done by MPI that showed that approximately 65% of the participants anticipated the business returning to 2019 levels in 2023. Now, we also need to understand, virtual events have enabled the industry to survive throughout the worst of the pandemic, but it's very clear that they cannot replace every aspect of the in-person experience. And I personally think that the big need for networking opportunities, maybe the biggest driving factor for event success and attendance this year. So definitely very optimistic on this.
That's great. Great. I know that one of the stats that I shared is that not all planners are as optimistic about in-person attendance, but it really depends on the type of event you're hosting. Is this your first time getting back to in-person, or did you do it last year? So there's a lot of variables, I would say, that affect in-person event attendance, but it's great to hear that you're positive on that for 2023. And then to my next question, with that positivity around in-person event attendance and the types of events you're hosting, how are you approaching room blocks this year?
Well, given the fluctuation in event attendance and the surge in prices, planners need to ensure, that they do a proper risk analysis based on historical data and current trends, and plan for the right number of rooms before they even contract. Second, I would definitely encourage all planners to do their homework, on rates and ask for more. And this is what we do here at Cvent. So before you call the hotels on your list, research the best rates they are offering online. Ask the hotel POC for the best rate that he or she can offer. And if it's higher than the web rate, then ask if you can get a better price. Also ask if they have a complimentary room policy where they provide a free room if a certain number of rooms are secured. And I know personally that at many hotels, you can get a complimentary room for every 50 rooms picked up, by your guests. So yes, definitely ask for more. The third thing that we are very mindful about is contracts. So go over the contract with a fine-tooth comb. Before you sign the contract, take a close look at the few crucial details. Take note of the cancellation policy, cutoff date, attrition policy, rate and deposit amount, etc. Now, just to reiterate, the cutoff date is when the hotel expects you to have all rooms booked to ensure the block is secured. So check to see, if attrition policies applies, that means you may be liable for an attrition penalty if your guests don't pick up the number of rooms that you have requested. So in order to avoid potential fees, negotiate a reasonable cutoff date with your hotel POC, and make sure that the contract is a win-win for both the parties. So yeah, these are the three things that we are very mindful about while we approach towards room block contracts.
all of the strategies and policies and negotiation tactics you all just mentioned require working with the hotel in an efficient way and really having a great relationship throughout the event planning process. So I wanted to ask you, how has it been recently for your 2023 in-person events that you're working on? How's it been working with those hotels to get the terms that you need?
I would say fantastic. Like, we have a great, brilliant partnership. Well, I would say, flexibility and communication plays a key role here. And I have seen, like, both planners and hotels tries to get the best out of the deal, and usually are flexible and accommodative, like, with their requests, such as, cutoff dates, like, payment terms, penalties, rates, etc. Even if the hotels are if they cannot accept few of your terms, they would always come up with an alternative solution. So definitely I see a great partnership between planners and hotels. Absolutely.
That's great. And, that partnership is very much reliant on technology to help both sides kind of manage the process. And I wanted to talk about Cvent's technology, specifically Passkey, a little bit, because that is what Cvent uses for our in-person event program to help us get a little bit smarter and more efficient in managing our room blocks. So, talking about Passkey in particular, Manpreet, are there specific Passkey features that have been helpful to you and your team when managing in-person events?
Absolutely. And I love this question and I love Passkey. But yes, well, adopting right technology for room block definitely helps offer attendees a higher level of customer service, right? When it comes to housing, both planners and hoteliers have reason to drive the process. Now, hoteliers benefit because they can better manage their brand reputation while providing a differentiating service to the planner. Now, planners often prefer to manage their inventory in their room blocks as it reduces the back and forth conversation with the hotel, and gives them flexibility to make real time changes and access to the reports. Now, to your second question, well, yes, there are many features in Passkey that has been super helpful, but then the key ones, and my personal favorites are. Uploading rooming lists to group blocks, allowing attendees to, like, book and manage their reservation. Even the planners has an access to modify and make changes, like, to the reservations made by the guests. um, Planners can actually control inventory in room blocks before the cutoff dates. They can also manage attrition and adjust the room blocks to avoid penalties. And my most favorite feature is the live dashboard and reports. Like, it's so easy. I do not have to reach out to the hotel. I can see, like, the pickup report anytime, whenever I want. And then the last is the email alerts, right? You can actually get an automated emails with vital stats or alerts as your room block fills up. So as and how you want, you can, like, set those alerts. So yeah, these are some very crucial feature that we leverage, when we use Passkey.
It's great. I've dabbled in event planning myself, and I know I have done the manual processes to manage room blocks, and it's a huge headache. Updating, someone's meal preference or someone's name or guest manually, and then sending it over to the hotel to update on their end. So this is a great technology when we talk about the constraints of today, having to do more with less, and not having the time to do it, and just being more efficient in the way that we work. And as you were talking, I was just thinking, we both work at Cvent, and how easy that must be for giving updates all of the time to our leadership team on where we stand with the health of the event, how many attendees are registered, and what that looks like. So it must be a great help to use that technology for our events. And then
Absolutely.
I wanted to talk about cost saving tips because you probably have a lot of them. I know you've shared a few already, but talk to us about when it comes to securing room blocks or any of the venue related parts of an event. What are some of your cost savings tips?
Yeah, sure. So first would be book your venue and secure room block way in advance to get the best deal. This is very crucial, as I've already mentioned, in the earlier for the earlier question. Um, the second would be, do a risk analysis, a proper risk analysis using like the historical data to secure the right number of rooms. And again, do not overestimate the rooms that you would need. Um, Third would be, research the room rates that's available online and use that to negotiate, with your hotel POC. Also, you can ask if on-site events can lower your rates. If your events allow for it, consider planning some events at the hotel, such as group meal or happy hour. You need to understand that total spend is a big part of booking hotels. The more you can do at the hotel, the more you will save. Adding on-site activities will actually change how the hotel views you as a client. Again, the more you spend and the more hotel services you use, the more that the hotel will see you as a VIP customer and will give you more preferential rates. Um, the next would be, negotiating on the contract, on all the terms that we spoke about earlier, cancellation, attrition, cutoff dates, penalties. You really have to be cognizant, and look at these terms critically. Then the other point would be, ask for more again, ask for complimentary rooms, ask for more added, hotel services as a part of your deal. Some hotels are also providing like, gift voucher that you can actually give it to your attendees. So again, don't be hesitant in asking for more. And again, to summarize, by working very closely with your hotel POC, keeping event activities on site whenever possible, and negotiating a reasonable contract without any hidden penalties, you'll be well on your way to successfully negotiating a hotel room block and ultimately saving a lot of cost.
Thank you. That was some great advice. I especially like the understanding what your total spend can be with the hotel to get more and better rates from them because I think a lot of times, we're not thinking of how we can partner with a hotel in all facets, whether it be that event or travel for a different event. I think there's a lot that can go on to build a partnership with a hotel and make your event more efficient and maybe even cost less. So thank you for that great advice. And I'm going to ask one more thing before we get into the live Q&A. And, the theme of what we're talking about is really building that partnership with the planner and the hotel working efficiently together. So what would be some of your advice for doing just that and working efficiently with hotels for in-person events going forward?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I would have two major advice. So first, being both targeted and flexible with RFPs, I think is more important than ever. So if you're looking to secure the best deal, remember that flexibility runs both ways, right? The hotels know where they have rooms and meeting spaces that needs to be filled, so they are better able to identify best deals. If you're open to a range of dates and offer to keep additional services in house, there's almost always a way to get the job done. Another consideration when building an RFP is to avoid what some term as RFP spam, which is when a planner sends their RFP to multiple cities and multiple hotels, leading to dozens of potential options. Now, when a busy hotel salesperson sees this, they consider their odds of winning the business low. Given the influx of leads they are managing these days, your lead may not be a priority as they triage what's in front of them and focus on the RFPs. They have a better chance of winning. So be very cognizant about not, spamming. Um, The second advice would be communication. Communicate your must-haves and decision timelines very clearly. I feel like transparency and flexibility at the RFP stage is a key. Hotel sales teams are handling an abundance of opportunities, so providing as much information about where you're flexible, where you're not, is vital to a successful negotiation. Are there contract clause that your company requires? What's the exact timeline you need to make your decision? It is vital to communicate like how long your team will need to make a decision once an offer has been made. So again, one of the biggest shifts that hotels experiencing these days is in the amount of time they have to maintain a hold. So we need to factor that in, when we send the RFP. Again, the more clearly you communicate your needs during this selection process, the lower your chances are of missing out, on a once in a lifetime deal. So yeah, like those would be my two advices.
Great. Thank you, Manpreet. You're definitely a wealth of knowledge when it comes to how to communicate with the hotels, over communicate with the hotels to get what you need to obviously execute efficient events. And I want to thank you again for joining us today. And we're going to get into live Q&A in a little bit. So if anyone has any other questions, please put them into the chat so we can answer them for you. And with my wrap up, I want to remind everyone who's tuning in to take the survey once again. And we like to know what you thought about the presentation today, and we will take your recommendations for future webinars. And I also want to show you the upcoming Cvent webinars. Make sure you register for anything that catches your attention, because again, if you can't watch them live, you can always access them on demand. So make sure you register. And with that, Manpreet and I are going to jump into live Q&A. So final chances to put your questions into the Q&A box. I'm going to pull it up right now on my screen and look at what has been upvoted by you and just go in order. So the first question that I see that came through is, can Passkey work with any hotel? I can take this one, and then maybe Manpreet, you can expand upon my answer if you want to. So can Passkey work with any hotel? There's a few different scenarios in that one. Any event organizer can have a passkey license. So Manpreet working, with our Cvent events, that we have a passkey license as an event organizer. In that scenario, passkey can integrate with any hotel system, any hotel PMS. The hotel does not need their own passkey license. Now, also hotels oftentimes do have a passkey license. So if the event organizer does not have a passkey license, but the hotel does, then that scenario works too. So passkey can integrate with any hotel. However, that organizer would need to have a license for that integration to happen. Okay, I'm going to move on to the second question. This is from Brenda. She said, I have sticker shock at the increase in food and beverage. Sorry, it just disappeared. I have sticker shock at the increase in food and beverage this year. Is anyone else finding this with hotels that include conference facilities? So I'm going to ask Manpreet on this one if you have any advice or experience with this specifically.
Yeah, like F&B, definitely, as mentioned earlier, we are seeing a surge in prices overall, be it like the room rentals, the F&B. But, I think like the best way to tackle this is, first leverage your relationship, the partnership that you have with the hotel. If you have done multiple events at the hotel, leverage that, and see if, you can get a negotiated rate. And most importantly, reach out to the hotel in advance, Also try and see, like, if the hotel is interested in sponsorships, right? This way, actually, like, you can this can help curb your direct cost. You can have the hotel sponsor the F&B component, or whichever area where you feel like, there's a highly more surge in the prices. So yeah, like, combination of, like, getting a TOS done with the hotel, or getting, like, the hotel to sponsor, reaching out to the hotel and leveraging your relationship with your hotel POC can, help curb these costs.
Okay, moving on to the next question from Alejandra, and this is for you too, Manpreet. How do hotels come up with food and beverage minimums? I don't know if you know the exact answer, but in your experience.
Well, I think it depends from hotel to hotel, and also depends on the region where you're hosting, your conference. And it all so the MG, I think, depends on you, right? So, say for example, you're expecting, like, 100 attendees, right? You wouldn't give like 100 as the MG. You probably might give, like, 80 as your MG, right? And again, like, this is something that you have to work a deal with the hotel, right? And it also depends on the policy that they have, depending on the region they are based on. But yeah, like, again, this is something that, work, like, first of all, like, use your historical data, see, like, how many attendees you are expecting, and based on that, just give like 80% as the MG. And near to the event, if you see, like, you're expecting more attendees, like, communicate this to your hotel POC to increase the MG. But the benefit of doing this is, the cost that you have gotten, like, from the hotel for the initial MG still remains the same, and this actually helps you in, like, saving cost overall. So that's a little insight that I would give on this.
Next question is, how can planners convince hotels, especially independent hotels, to use Passkey? I don't, I can answer this one. I don't know if there's a surefire way to get an independent hotel on Passkey. Brenda, I don't know if it's a possibility for you to look into using your own Passkey license. That way you can integrate Passkey with any hotel. If that's not a scenario you're looking for, we can certainly help you get in touch with that independent hotel that you're looking to get on the Passkey. If you reach out to your CVent rep, assuming you have one, they can pass along that information to the hotel CVent rep of that independent venue to have that conversation. It always helps when planner organizations are wanting a hotel to be on Passkey for the hotel conversation around the value of Passkey, because it is really, really beneficial for that hotel to have it, to work with planners like you. So if you haven't already done that, it would be great to pass along that information to your CVent rep, and they can take it from there. And then this next question is for Manpreet as well. Is CVent expecting a larger attendance at any events happening this year?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in-person attendance is most likely to increase this year, and we at CVent are very optimistic around this. And we also believe that the business will be returning to 2019 levels. So definitely, like, we are expecting, or projecting 30% more in-person attendees, like, to our biggest conference, which is CVent Connect. That happens in Vegas every year. However, that being said, we we're only expecting about like 3% increment in our virtual attendees. So of course, like, over years, we have seen there has been a decrease of like, virtual attendees. And given that, more people are interested to participate in person, we definitely see a decrease or like a slight increase in the virtual attendees. But overall, when it comes to in person, absolutely at the event, we are projecting about like 30% increment.
Great. Now moving on to the next question. Can passkey be used for internal lodging, for example, a college dorm? That is a great question, and I know that Cvent can be configured to work with any kind of event, and I know the event builder team has put together internal events before, so absolutely, our passkey could be configured for internal lodging. We do a lot of unique scenarios, so that one would for sure be able to be accomplished. If you want to, we can get more information on this question. I don't have your name, but I can look in the documents and make sure that someone follows up with you to specifically let you know how we can make that use case happen within passkey. So we will be in touch with more specifics for that answer. And I will move on to the next question from Alicia. When are they planning to allow integration of passkey within Cvent so that registration is managed on Cvent, the EU instance of passkey? This one, I don't have an exact timeline for you. I would have to contact our product managers. I don't know, Manpreet, would you happen to know anything about this integration? If not, we can easily get that answer from someone in product.
Yeah, I'm not very sure on that. So definitely, like, we can get back.
Okay. Alicia will be in touch once we get the right person in product to be able to let you know exactly when the integration for the EU instance of passkey will be active. So we can get that for you right after we conclude. And then the next question is from Tiffany. Is passkey only available for Cvent license holders? I'm currently using Cvent's pay-as-you-go software. Right now, if you're working with a hotel that has passkey, it wouldn't matter if you have any kind of Cvent license. Most hotels that are bigger hotels do have a passkey license. So any hotel that has that license, you can work with them and reap the benefits of passkey and managing your room blocks that way. Now, if you wanted to have your own passkey license as an event organizer to get the insights and data and really own all of that process, you would need to purchase your own passkey license through Cvent. So that would be an option. And you can reach out to your Cvent account representative or inquire online to learn more about what that looks like if you're interested in having your own license. Going to move on to the next question. I'm so glad we got a lot of them. My company is planning to combine 3 regional sales meetings into one large sales meeting. So we do not have any legacy information on rooms and food and beverage. What would be best practice to estimate my budget? And I am going to go to Manpreet for this one, for that scenario.
Yeah. Can you just repeat like the last part of the question?
Sure. So if they're combining their 3 regional sales meetings that they previously had, but they're going to turn that into one large sales meeting this year, they're wondering, they don't really have any information on rooms and food and beverage costs. So what would be their best practice for estimating budget?
Yeah. I think first of all, definitely, I think that's a good idea. In of course, if somebody is very cognizant about the budget, combining three into one, is a good practice. But I think it depends a lot, many factors. How you estimate your budget. Number one, look where exactly you want to host this event, right? How many attendees you are expecting, right? How many people would be traveling from outside the city or country, right? So you need to list down different aspects, in order to come up with an estimated budget. But yes, these are the critical questions that you need to ask. And of course, once you have these questions answered, you can then try to send RFP to the venues, or the destination, and try to get an approximate cost from different vendors and venues. But yes, in order to come with an estimated budget, you absolutely need to have different aspects and components, and try and guess, get some number. Maybe this is based on your historical data. So yes, see how many attendees you have gotten previously for these three. Come up with, do a math, come up with a number, and accordingly you can plot your budget.
I know one thing, and this was, more so in 2020, 2021, when a lot of companies were just starting to do anything in person, is they, did a lot of polls with their attendees. I know at Cvent we do that a lot. So we're sending out surveys and we're asking our potential in-person reach, if they're interested in this event. If so, how long would they want to stay? What events would they want to partake in, to kind of estimate where the attendance is coming from, how many people are interested in coming, and then how long they would stay. So maybe how many events actually would require food and beverage, and what type of event that would be, from planning it out in terms of bigger or smaller, or buffet, or that type of thing. So I know that's something that we still continue to do with every in-person event that we host. Let's survey our audience and understand what they want to before we're putting those attendance levels or budgets together. And I think that was the last question, but I'm going to check again, see if any more came through. Okay, one more came through. Okay, this one is a bit more technical, but I will read it out loud, and then Laura, we would be able to get the answer for you. Is it possible to remove the reservation access date or the cutoff date from Passkey? For some projects, we need to keep exclusive control of the inventory until the end of the event. That makes sense. I'm not 100% positive on the answer to that. So what I will do again is make sure, Laura, we get your question to the right person in the product team or the sales team, so they'll be able to follow up with that answer for you. I just do not know the specifics of that question, but we will get you the answer for sure. Okay, I'm going to give it a few more seconds to see if we get any more questions that come through. And I want to thank everyone again. A lot of great questions, a lot of great interaction. So thanks again for being a great audience for us. All right, I don't see any more coming through. So I know that our chat will remain open for a little bit. And if you did have any questions, you could put them through that way. But with that, I'm going to wrap up the webinar and thank everyone who attended again today. You can, of course, access this webinar at any time, join any of our other webinars. And one big thank you again for Manpreet for joining us and having the discussion as our product matter experts. We hope you all have a great year ahead, and happy planning to you all. Thanks again for joining.
Thanks, Kelly. Thanks, everyone.